Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Hakodash, Barakatah. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone that rule well, and peace and salutations to Yakim out there pushing this word in truth. This is the Brother I with another video, and I'm going to skim through a few articles and get a few scriptures and then get out of here. And this is on the UNZ.com, and it's titled Syrian Kurdish Forces Launch Powerful Counterattack Against Turkey. And for anybody that's been keeping up, Turkey recently invaded, I think it was the northern part of Syria in the Afrin district, to quell the Kurdish YPG that's there. That's also a part of a border army that the U.S. is trying to build up down there, and they're trying to stop it because they know it's just going to lead to more problems there. So let's get into this article. And I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to get to the point and get a scripture for it. Turkey is hoping for a quick victory in Afrin, but its soldiers and allied Syrian militiamen are facing counterattacks by Kurdish forces on villages close to the border. The Kurds are reported to be readying reinforcements to join the battle from their bases in northeast Syria, where they have thousands of troops who until recently were fighting ISIS. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan says there would be no stepping back from Afrin, which means that the campaign, bizarrely named Operation Olive Branch, will continue, but it will take time to drive the Kurdish YPG paramilitary forces out of the Afrin enclave north of Aleppo. So far, the Turkish offensive has captured only a few villages close to the border in 3 days of fighting, and there are a total of 350 villages in Afrin. The population of the enclave is estimated to be 200,000, many of whom will become refugees if Turkey and Arab militiamen take control. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that there had been a strong Kurdish counterattack overnight that had recaptured 2 villages called Shinak and Adamale. Turkey needs a swift success in Afrin because it is diplomatically isolated, and there is growing international pressure to end the fighting. France has called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council to discuss the fighting in Afrin and other parts of Syria. Britain said it would look for ways to prevent escalation, but Mr. Erdogan said in a speech in Ankara that Turkey had discussed the Afrin offensive with their Russian friends. We have an agreement with them. This probably refers to Russia agreeing to limited Turkish action as warning to the Kurds not to become the permanent proxies of the U.S. in Syria. Turkish forces and some 10,000 Free Syrian Army militia based in Turkey would be facing even more difficulties if Russia had not allowed Turkish jets to operate in Syrian airspace. Though Turkey is a member of NATO, it has become closer to Russia because of U.S. military support for the Syrian Kurds against ISIS since 2014, and Turkish suspicion that the U.S. was complicit in the military coup that almost overthrew Mr. Erdogan in 2016. And before I get my first scripture, Akim, I'm going to refer to you back to my previous video called Wake Up the Mighty Men, where I discussed this. It dealt with the Syrian border army and how Turkey is moving more towards the Russian camp because, as it says here, there was a military coup against them in 2016. And the scripture I'm going to go to is Ezekiel 38 and 3 through 7. Ezekiel 38 and 3. And say, Thus saith the Lord Most High, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, which is Russia, and I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. And Gomer is the ancient name for Turkey. But here's the point. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard to them, And as it said in that article, Turkey is doing this military campaign in the Afrin district only really because they have backing and support by Russia. And this is Russia going back to its old ways and helping them out. And as things get more intense down there, we'll get to closer and closer to World War III and an eventual conflict against Iran, which is all building up towards. And I'm going to get my next article on anti-war, which is a really good website that I like to use a lot, called U.S. Struggles with Fighting Between Turkey, Syrian Kurds, and Two Key Allies. U.S. warnings and calls for restraint have failed, and Turkey has invaded Syria's Afrin district, beginning what could be a protracted battle with the U.S.-backed Kurdish YPG. Two major U.S. allies are in open conflict. U.S. allies have often clashed in the course of the Syrian war, but this is shaping up to be a long military campaign by Turkey, which has been looking to push against the Kurds for quite some time. The U.S. is so far just calling for restraint, but their involvement in the fight could come quite quickly, as Turkish officials have repeatedly said after Afrin they'll be attacking the YPG-held city of Manbij, a city that has U.S. troops embedded within. The U.S. initially sent troops to Manbij to try to deter a Turkish invasion, betting they wouldn't want to risk causing casualties to a fellow NATO member. That the fight is already ongoing may now change that calculation. Moreover, Turkey has been complaining about U.S. support for the Kurds for years, and is now demanding the U.S. totally end all connections with the YPG if they want to work together, something the U.S. is unlikely to do. Excuse me, Slaki brothers. U.S. intentions to keep troops in Syria for the long term depend heavily on the idea of the YPG retaining a lot of territory to host those U.S. troops within, which goes back into that border army they want to create. Finding a way to retain that territory while still giving Turkey the major anti-Kurdish offensive they want is going to be a struggle, and one which could do long-term harm to U.S. and Turkey relations. And the point I want to go over again is where it says the U.S. is so far just calling for restraint, but their involvement in the fight could come quite quickly. I'm going to go to my next scripture, Joel 3:2. I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Yasharallah, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land. So with these former allies and former allies becoming adversaries, and all this geopolitical stuff with people picking sides and starting to get things together, as you can see, the Most High is starting to gather these nations down to the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is in the Middle East, for this coming world war. And we can only wait to see what happened, because this situation was just talked about last week, and it's already escalating more and more. And then we've got that super blue red moon coming at the end of the month, so you know things are only going to heat up after that. So just keep your eyes open out there, Akim, and I hope you're edified. Until next time, Shalom.